Thank you. A very generous introduction. Thank you so much. Don't have nuggets of wisdom to offer because we come from, I would say, a parallel view as platforms. We probably are the guys who, and you'll understand why I am saying this. We're probably eventually going to be the guys who will connect media to the masses, right? And that doesn't seem very characteristic of a mobility company or a transportation focused company. But that's a grand direction that we are taking. And probably over the next 10, 15 minutes, I'll walk you through what's the direction we are taking and would love to hear your views, your thoughts, and happy to answer any questions thereafter. I understand this is probably the last session, or there's one more. So I'll not keep you much longer, and I'll try to keep it as crisp as it is. Would love to hear from you right after and answer your questions. The ride-sharing market in India, if you take a look at it, is growing by the day. Sharing economy as a word, every one of us have a crash course in sharing economy through WhatsApp forwards, through YouTube videos, to infographics. Just to put it in perspective, 4 years back, the sharing economy was worth about $15 billion, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers. By 2025, that's going to be $355 billion. And that trigger is primarily going to be the effect of digitization, the effect of smartphones and the penetration with smartphones, but more importantly, the demographic dividend that we have, particularly in our country today. We're talking about 60% of Indians under the age of 30, right? And that's a massive demographic dividend to reap. What's also interesting is the Indian sharing economy, and particularly mobility, is very, very different from the sharing economy from the rest of the world. If you remember e-commerce took off first in the US, then went to China, then came to India. There were multiple phases of e-commerce. If you look at ride sharing, if you look at mobility, or most commonly called taxi apps, it's growing together in all of these economies. In the US, it's growing at the same time. In China, it is going at the same time, Far East as well as India, right? And that is where we think there's tremendous scope for innovation, right? In India, for example, there are two major problems. One, transportation is a genuine problem, and I'm 100% sure all of you would have been stuck in a traffic jam thinking about how to get from point A to point B, wouldn't have been able to get a taxi or an auto many years ago. All those paradigms have changed, but we have a larger futuristic problem. And that larger futuristic problem that we have at hand today is the fact that we have very limited capacities. Our roads can only expand so much. We cannot get more cars on the road, which means unlike the US, 70% of India is never going to own a car. We will never be able to reach that paradigm. But more importantly, there are two things that come out of it. One, how do we expand and optimize capacities of what already exists? अगर एक road पे auto rickshaw है या एक काली पीली taxi है, how do we ensure that that guy is running all the time? How do we optimize what he or she is made for? More than this, there's going to be more demand coming with time. How do we ensure that every vehicle that gets on the road over time is built with optimization from the word go? And that's the problem that we are really trying to solve. If you look at the range of categories that we have today across micro, mini, auto, prime, these are all familiar words for all of you who use Ola probably every single day of your life. Each of these have a use case, right? And our findings tell us very interestingly that every use case is going to be a meaningful use case for a person at one point or the other in his life, right? And we have innovated across a range of these categories to ensure that they are made for the country. But what this space really needs is to go much deeper, right? And that's why we think there is a lot of innovation that is actually required on the on-ground mobility space, which is what we'll be talking about today. These are the various things that we have probably done, a range of categories, safety measures, technology, and mapping and artificial intelligence. There is a lot of payment support that we have made so that today you can walk out of your car without even putting your hand into your pocket because you can pay with Ola money. Like, there's so much that has happened across the board, right? If you split these into two parts, all of these, if you see, and this is exactly what we had put together here, all of these come in one of the two categories, either before the ride or after the ride, right? And this is interesting because there's nothing that has happened during the ride. Your in-car travel and experience remains exactly the same, and potentially nothing has changed, of course, until the last few months. This is the kind of time that it takes before and after. You take 30 seconds to book, and then you look at your app waiting for your driver to come by, and after your ride is over, you take 30 seconds, rate your driver, pay by Ola Money, whatever the last modalities are. 99% of your time in the ride is spent during the ride, right? And this is something that we want to leverage and help build for a variety of audiences, which is why we launched Ola Play in November. Ola Play is the world's first connected car platform for the ride-sharing industry. There are connected cars which are available for people to buy. There's Cisco working on some, there's Volvo working on some. All of these are private cars, right, which you and I can buy. That is not the objective. How do we get hundreds of thousands of vehicles on the road to be part of a connected car platform and ensure that the experience is so unique and so sanitized across? Three things that we focused on. One, how do we build an immersive experience for each of you, right? Second thing, how do we get the control of the car from the driver to the customer, right? And the third thing, how do we get developers, a lot of media houses here, a lot of publications here, how do we get developers and builders like you to take your content and build it for customers, keeping them at the center? These are the three focus areas. So what does Ola Play entail? It's a simple, at the outset, a very simple one, but a very sophisticated device inside a car. Two devices talking to each other through a proprietary Wi-Fi connection, also reflecting on your phone during your ride. So essentially, you can do everything from controlling music to controlling volume in the car to controlling radio in the car. Very soon, also air conditioning and rolling up and down of windows, all of it from your phone or a screen on the car. Because you are the customer and not the driver when the ride is on. So that's the thinking. That's the kind of time we spend on the road every single day. 1 billion minutes. Right? 1 billion minutes on the road in cabs, just in cabs across the country. And that, I think, is every marketeer, every media house, every content maker, every publisher's dream time for three simple reasons, right? There's a lot of things that these people do while they are in cabs. Basic survey before we launched Ola Play, and this is what it looks like. There's personal communication that's happening. People are on the phone, people are on the email, though that's not what they want to do. There's entertainment happening, draining out their own batteries. There's productivity, people planning their day, calendarizing things, and socializing on Facebook, WhatsApp, and so on, right? These are the broad use cases that people actually engage in today for lack of better options. And those are the options that we actually want to change. What we bring with Ola Play is a massive digital economy. Over 1 million rides happen on the platform today. Over 1 million rides just on the Ola app today, right? That's the kind of captive audience you're talking about. An average of 60 minutes on every single ride, right? And that's the captive audience we're talking about, which means any content maker, any content creator, any publisher can actually leverage this captive audience. Not only are they a large audience, they're also highly engaged, right? They're sitting in a car, going from one place to another, not knowing what to do, right? And you get them stuff that is relevant to them, right? You have context, you know where they're going. You have your drop location, so I know if you're going to a theater, or if you're going to a multiplex, if you're going to a mall, going for a movie, whatever that be, right? There is the platform that understands your intelligence, right? Imagine seeing a movie review before you go to the multiplex, or imagine seeing a Transformers clip before you actually go for the movie, automatically without you having to ask for it. That's the kind of intelligence we're talking about. More importantly, I think the larger challenge which we heard across the last 3 days is also media's ability to get loyalty, right? What is the first trigger? At some point in time early on in our lives, the first trigger probably 2 decades ago was the newspaper in print, right? Today, every media house is probably grappling with the question of whether it is digital, if it's social, if it's Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, or is it their own app, their native app? These are the questions that everyone is trying to answer. Here's an opportunity to speak to your customer, to your viewer, for 60 minutes flat, one way, every single day, right? And that's a massive opportunity to get your brand top of mind. More than this, I think there's also a scope for monetization which we've begun to explore, where this is not only a content streaming device or a content engagement device, but also helps you make money as a platform, right? There are a lot of pilots happening at this point in time, and we'd love to extend it to many, many more. As of the last month, we had over 20 billion minutes of engagement on a platform like Ola Play. So I wouldn't be wrong in saying that this is as good as any other platform or any other social platform that is taking a new wave. Starbucks many years ago in the United States called themselves as the third place, the first and second being home and work. In India, I think it's going to be on the road, right? That's the third place between home and work, and that's the space we bring to you as a mobility company, getting more time with customers. And the future also looks very, very interesting because for the customer, there's so much to control, so much to view, so much to interact, right? And all of this is happening from the back seat, which is most likely the place that most customers will take over the years, right? I saw many hands go up, when you were asked how many of you have taken a cab, and it is quite possible that 90% people in this room, I see a lot of young faces, will never want to own a car, surely for the hassles that the maintenance and parking and driving actually brings along, right? For a driver, we think it is his workplace, which also means you as, say, a vernacular news publication can actually bring relevant news to the driver on a screen every single morning or in between rides. That's the kind of targeting that is also possible. As a developer, you get a lot of intelligent insights. You know who's seeing you. You know what are they seeing so that you can customize your content better and bring it back to them the next time. So the power of Ola Play, I think, is massive, and we see a lot of media, non-media, hardware partners, developers also launched a version 2. And I think the first thing that all of you should do probably when you go back home today is pick on Ola Play. You'll find that under the Prime Play category, and I'm sure you join one of these people raving about what Ola Play can do to you on Twitter. Right, so that's it from my side. I'd be very interested to answer questions on how you feel about a platform like this if you've already taken a ride, or if you want to know more, happy to answer. That's where we are. Thank you. Any questions up? All right, so we'll be available offline and happy to catch up. Thank you so much.